Obviously, today is not about me. Today is about Mr. James Prince here. I can definitely remember right when I was making the transition from wanting to be involved with rap music to actually taking steps towards making it a choice as not just a a hobby, but a real career. And I went and told my mom that I wasn't going to go to college, that I wanted to go and be a rapper.
Right.
And my mom was like, "That's fine, but that sounds like some grown man talking, and you have to get out of here if you want to do that kind of talking." So my father told me I could come and live with him. My father he had a landscaping business, so basically he's like, "You come over here and cut some grass or whatnot if you want." And while we were working on music, I was working with him, and one night, it was a Saturday night, probably about one in the morning, we were shooting pool, listening to the radio, and I want to say Reggie Reg was his name.
Yeah.
And played this song. And it wasn't the first rap song I'd heard. It wasn't even the first rap song from Houston I heard. But when that DJ played Mind Playing Tricks on me, I knew the game was over.
Wow.
I knew there was no way that they could deny what the South was doing in hip hop. And I knew from that point on that whatever me and Chad were gonna do, it was gonna be a little bit easier from that point on. And that credit goes to this gentleman right here, Mr. James Prince, the founder of Rap Loud Records. And I personally want to thank you not just for being here, but for being here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, thank you, man.
We all find music differently. Some of us in different places, different times, with different people. Tell me about how growing up in Fifth Ward, you came to find music and fall in love with music in general.
I was what one would call a Motown baby. So I got woke up every morning with, Gladys Knight and the Pimps and all of these different Motown artists. And, unbeknownst that I was developing an ear for music from hearing all of this music, every morning, every weekend. So I found myself really falling in love with music. I actually used to have a Michael Jackson voice. I lost it at the age of 13. But that's how it went.
Now, nowadays, if you turn on any television to any channel or any radio station almost, you're gonna find rap music or elements of hip hop. But back when you were growing up, obviously, it wasn't everywhere like it is today. How did you first come across this thing called, I guess at the time would be rap music? When do you first recall actually hearing some rap music?
Oh man, I think it was a group. I think I was actually in the 9th grade, and don't push me 'cause I'm close to the edge. Yeah, I'm trying not to lose my head. Between that one and Sugar Hill Gang and a lot of those other guys, I fell in love with rap music, along with, Run DMC, all the other guys,
Being 15 in an environment, in a community like Fifth Ward, hearing words like, "Don't push me because I'm close to the edge," has got to resonate with you. It's got to kind of make sense with you at that time. Probably a little different than the Motown records, right?
Yeah, most definitely. I could relate to it from a lot of different aspects of life, because growing up in Fifth Ward, that temptation of being pushed off the edges can become a lifestyle if you don't watch yourself. So I could relate to that in a lot of different areas.
So when did you go from listening to rap music at 15 and liking it to being like, I think I want to get involved in this? Did you at any time want to be a rapper or something like that?
No, I actually never wanted to rap, but I always liked it, but I got involved because of my brother. My brother's name was Sir Rap-A-Lot, and I actually named the company after him, Rap-A-Lot Records. And, he would rap all the time, 24 hours a day. And I didn't want to see my brother in the streets. So I'm like, man, you rap. I'm gonna
Right.
support you in rapping. And later on, there was a couple of other guys that were skipping school, and I made a deal with them. I said, if y'all go to school, I'll support y'all in rap as well. So I found myself just, trying to keep my word, because one day my grandmother called me. The guys would go to school, come from school, land on her porch, and practice. So one day I got a call. She said, James, these guys been doing their work and doing like you asked them. She said, now you need to keep your word. So that like registered with me in a special way, because that means something to me, my word. So I found myself committing deeper and deeper.
Now, eventually, this commitment goes from just supporting them to actually creating an outlet for them. Now, obviously, like I said, in 2016, there's 1,000,001 ways to put out a rap song. But this isn't the case at that time. How hard was it for you to even try to figure out how to help these guys as far as putting their music out and getting their music heard by people?
Well, it was pretty difficult. It was pretty difficult because at the time, rap music was monopolized by the East Coast. And when I say monopolized, I'm talking about in a lot of different perspectives, from radio, video, you name it. They were just running things. And they felt like we was country at the time, so they made fun of our accents, back then. And I had to figure out a way to make them respect us, because I know we had talent down
Right.
south. And I was able to do that, and the talent spoke for itself from there.
Now, when you talk about these East Coast groups, I remember growing up and listening to Run DMCs and Grandmaster Flash, and I also remember the different names that people had, like the Fat Boys and the Skinny Boys and all of that. But down south, we had a different set of boys.
Yeah,
We had the Ghetto Boys,
Ghetto Boys.
which to me is still probably the top 5 rap group names of all time, because it's so self-explanatory.
Right.
If I tell people I'm in a group called UGK and you haven't heard it before, then you got to ask me what UGK means, and I tell you what it means, and then I got to ask. People are going to ask me to explain it deeper. So you say Ghetto Boys, you pretty much, you don't have to ask anything beyond that. What was the frame of mind behind giving that group that name? Because I think the name itself, not just for the group, but Rap-A-Lot Records, those names
Right.
are key.
Yeah. Well, the Ghetto Boy name, it was a name I thought of because I wanted the group to be a representation for ghettos all over the world. And I knew that ghettos all over the world could relate to a name such as the Ghetto Boys. And that was the beginning of our movement with the Ghetto Boy name. And from there, we spoke the language of the ghetto.
Now, how receptive were people to that initially? Like you talk about the East Coast and, kind of having a lock on everything. How hard was it being these Southern ghetto boys out there trying to spread that message to the world?
Well, it was very hard because nobody would embrace that kind of music at the time, I remember going to New York and the Ghetto Boys performed a song and they booed us. You know what I mean? We actually got booed. And of course, Willie D didn't take that well. And I recall him wanting to fight the whole venue at that time. And I know we was outnumbered, but we was together and we stood like men.
I know that's right. Now, we talk about the opposition outside of Texas, but being a black businessman in Texas and creating a record company and business hasn't been easy as well. Talk about some of, I guess, the obstacles of being not just a black businessman, but a black businessman in the music industry in Texas.
Oh, well, that's another story within itself. That wasn't easy, you know what I mean? Because at the time, you have to realize we were dealing with something that hadn't been proven. here in Texas, you know, in the whole South. So I almost became the enemy of Texas to a certain extent because they didn't understand the music. They wasn't used to people expressing the amendment in such a way, you know, lyrically like we were doing. And we were fearless, you know, and spoke what was on our mind, what was on our heart, and that made things difficult.
Now, obviously, there's going to be backlash from competition in the music industry, but you have backlash from other individuals as well, trying to be a black businessman in Texas. Would you care to talk about some of the other obstacles that you've had to kind of fight against?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've been having obstacles all my life, you know, all of my life. And, you know, I have a saying, if God be for me, the world could be against me, you know. And yeah, that's...
Yeah, you can clap to that. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. So, you know, every obstacle, you know, that was before me, you know, I dealt with them head on. You know, I didn't run. I dealt with them, triumphed over all of them. And, you know, they came from a lot of different areas, from the police department to, you know, politicians, IRS, you know, all the powers that be. You know, it appeared that they were out to try and stop our movement. But, you know, once again, you know, we were fearless. And no weapon formed against me was going to prosper.
And how hard is that to impress upon your artists when you're going through that? You know, you have that confidence, you maybe have that spiritual center, you know what I'm saying? How hard is it to keep your artists focused at a time when these kind of things are going on in the company?
You know, that was difficult at some times because my artists at the time, you know, was so in love with rap until they didn't really care about or feel the pressure that was coming from other areas. But all I needed them to do was show up and rap, you know what I mean? And sometimes I felt like I was pumping blood in them from my heart to keep them alive, you know what I mean? Because I would hear things like, we ain't gonna never make it. You know, this ain't gonna happen. You know, a lot of negative energy, but they loved the music enough to show up, and that's what meant something.
And after going through some of these early obstacles in the game, when did you feel like you were finally being heard? When do you think was that moment when, you know, the smoke cleared and the world got to see and hear Rap-A-Lot in a real way?
I think one of the most memorable moments was when Mind Playing Tricks exploded. And I say that because, you know, they would never embrace us, you know, where radio was concerned. And that record, you know, kicked in doors around the world, you know, state by state. You know, it didn't happen all at once, but state by state, it was undeniable. You know what I mean? It was one of them situations where y'all didn't want to give us our respect, we're gonna take it.
What was it like bringing those boys up to shoot that Source cover? I mean, this was the first time we'd ever had anybody from this way be a part of something, because at that time, the Source was the end-all, be-all of what hip-hop was. And you guys actually got a cover. I remember seeing that cover and being like, I don't believe this. They didn't put some Texas boys on the cover of Source magazine.
Yeah. Well, that was nice. Me and Dave Mays, the owner of Source magazine, always had a good relationship. And, you know, he, unlike a lot of the other guys out of the East Coast, he always felt, you know, the Ghetto Boys and Rap-A-Lot movement. So, you know, once we created the buzz that we had created, you know, doors open everywhere.
And once you're going out and as your company is growing and growing and you're gaining in more different artists, I know you're trying to get the best talent available and possible, but sometimes you can't win them all. Did anybody in those early days that you were looking at maybe slip through your fingers, groups of artists that you wanted to work with?
Yeah, they did. Is Matthew Knowles here? Matthew not here, right?
I don't see him. I think
Matthew
you're
is a good friend of mine, and he and I was eating the other day. You know, he brought Destiny Child to me. Yeah, he brought them to me, and I gave Matthew a contract, a blank contract. I said, "You fill it in, Matthew." I think I kind of spooked him. But that was one of the groups, along with Vanilla Ice. You know, Vanilla Ice.
now, this is I've never heard this before. You have to tell this story.
Yeah, Vanilla Ice. I actually saw Vanilla Ice perform at, I think, the Rhinestone Wrangler one night, and I took him back to my facility, and he stayed in Houston for like a week. And I took him to my partner at the time, you know, Cliff. I said, "Cliff, I want to sign this guy. You know, sign him for me." And I thought he had signed him. You know, Vanilla Ice went back to Dallas, and I heard that song, Ice Ice Baby, on the radio not long after, and I got excited. You know, I said, "Whoa, got me a hit." So I reached out to Cliff. I said, "Man, we got one." He said, "I didn't sign him." I said, "Why didn't you sign him?" He said, "I didn't think he was that talented." So I think Vanilla Ice sold about 12, 13, 14 million.
Easily.
Yeah,
Not
so I have to live with that one.
The licensing rights for all that stuff, too.
Yeah, exactly. And also Too Short, you know.
Really?
Yeah. Too Short was an artist that I feel like I could have pursued and gotten. But a lot of the females that worked for Rap-A-Lot at the time didn't like the way he used the B word. I mean, you know, he used it in such a special manner.
Is he talking about you, Ron? Rhonda seemed like her skin a little thicker. She seemed like she could handle it.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing, man. And I remember you guys like being on the magazine and then actually becoming a platinum group, right? Does that change how other businessmen in the industry start to look at you and receive you as a businessman in the game, or do they see you as a bigger threat in that time?
Combination of both, you know, a combination of both. You know, once you accomplish a goal, because that was a goal of ours to go platinum. Once we accomplished that, respect, you know, took place in a lot of areas, you know, radio, video, and a lot of things like that, but also animosity, you know what I mean, jealousy, you know, all the things that go with success, you know, was prevalent. So we had to deal with all of that.
And we saw a lot of people look at your independent success and gain a lot of confidence in themselves to want to follow along those footsteps. First names come to mind, of course, Tony Draper, you know, from Suave House Records, people like Master P from No Limit Records. Do you remember these guys in their earliest days, and can you tell us stories about them maybe coming to you for advice and tutelage?
Yeah, I mean, I remember them very well, and I respect all of them, you know. Master P, you know, as he, you know, the homie have stated so many times publicly, you know, how I inspired him, and, you know, he wouldn't be where he's at without me. I humbly appreciate that, and I can recall interacting with Master P on a number of occasions, sharing the blueprint with him, as well as Tony Draper. You know, Draper, I remember he was like 17 years old with a basketball, you know, hanging around me, just sucking up game, you know what I mean, asking a lot of questions. and also, you know, Cash Money, you know, invited them to my building many a times and shared wisdom with them as well. So, you know, all of them were my students, and I'm proud of all of them because they're all relevant today. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I think they're more than relevant. I think a lot of these men are now pillars of the hip hop community.
Right.
A lot of that comes from you. You've always chosen to be a mentor and to give back. Being a successful businessman from the Fifth Ward community, how important was it to come back and show that you still cared about the community that raised you?
Well, very important. I'm from Fifth Ward, one of the most beautiful spots in Houston, Texas.
Absolutely.
It shows you the power of perception,
If you haven't been there, pack a picnic basket and go tomorrow. You'll love it. You'll love it in the springtime.
I couldn't be who I am today if I hadn't experienced the different experiences and different things I experienced in Fifth Ward. It played a major role in shaping and molding my character and who I am today. I couldn't be as tenacious, as witty. You know what I mean? It's a lot of things I got from the ward that it would be a slap in the ward's face if I ran away and abandoned, the very community that, showed me so much love. I got love from Fifth Ward. I have love in Fifth Ward today. So with that being said, I don't have a lot of respect for one that make it out of these places, whether they be football players, basketball players, whoever, because the truth of the matter is they know that they wouldn't be as good as they are if it wasn't for the competition and different challenges that happen in that very community. So I don't have a lot of respect for those that abandon that and don't give back in no kind of manner.
You have been able to give back in many ways. For me, I think one of the ways that I would like to talk about first is how Rap-A-Lot as a company has a practice of hiring felons, giving people a second opportunity to contribute to society. Can you talk about why that's an important initiative for Rap-A-Lot Records?
Oh, well, once again, I'm Fifth Ward. And we had a lot of colorful personalities and different ingredients and formulas that worked for Rap-A-Lot. I didn't discriminate. We had people with degrees. We had people, just with a high school diploma. And then we had those with PhDs in the streets. Mm-hmm. And I think they're some of the most brilliant people in the world, the guys with PhDs in the street. And, I had a thing when I was able to tap into those brothers, and some of them are here today. And, they were willing to give up, that negative energy and apply, the positive. Then they were geniuses. They were brilliant people. And it was important to me to give a second chance to those who were willing to make those kind of sacrifices, because, hey, I needed many chances myself. So in order to be forgiven, you have to forgive.
I know that's right. Another way that you give back, of course, is by putting your money where your mouth is. I've known you for, I guess, 20 plus years now, and you're not really a man of a lot of words, but you are a man of action. And you're not afraid to stand up and speak for people that can't speak for themselves. But you also do a lot behind closed doors. You, quiet as kept, have given over $1 million to churches and groups in the city of Houston. Most people that do these things for write-offs and whatnot. But I see you actually in the streets touching people in a real way.
Right.
Is that also a byproduct of being from Fifth Ward?
Oh, most definitely. As a kid, I didn't have much material-wise, but I got a lot of love, and it's important to me. I believe too much given, much is expected, and that's a lifestyle with me. It's something that if I couldn't give back, I wouldn't want to be alive. You know, I'd rather, you know what I mean, call it a
Really?
day. Yeah. So I enjoy that. That's a part of my journey. That's a part of my calling. So, you know, when my spirit is moved to give, whether it be church, homeless, wherever it may be, then I want to be obedient to that. So,
You've been able to every now and then incorporate some of your core principles and values into the music of your artists. Do you think that's important, that the music reflect that?
oh yeah, I think music is something you can't put in a box. You know what I mean? Whatever one is feeling, they have the right to express it. And, you know, association a lot of times bring about similarity.
Mm.
It's one of my friend Steve's favorite saying, and it's true. So it's like, you know, impossible to hang around the truth and it don't rub off on you. And yeah, that has happened to many, and to me as well.
Now, you're not only a man about music, a man about business, a man about spirituality, and a man about your community. You're also a family man, and I know you take family very serious. And for anyone that spends any time around you, whether it be personally or professionally, you're going to see some of your family around you.
Yeah.
How important is that for you to have them around you?
Oh, very, very important. You know, family and hip hop is an interesting combination. And I had to figure out how to balance the two.
Go on, handle that for me.
I had to, you know, when it came to family and raising my kids, I didn't allow hip hop to penetrate my household for a lot of years.
And why is that?
It's simply because I didn't want hip hop raising my kids. You know, hip hop is strong. You know, life and death is in the tongue.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I tell everybody, if you allow, you know, music of any kind to become the master of your home, then don't be surprised of the results. So I felt like I had to protect my kids to a certain age. You know, I didn't want, I remember myself, you know, having access to all type of music and different things like that, and it matured me, you know, beyond my age and caused me to act beyond my age. So that's the balancing where family is concerned. And then there's another piece where hip hop is concerned. In order to keep things business versus personal, you can't allow unqualified family to just have a position because it's available. You know what I mean? So if you're trying to stay alive from a business perspective, then you put those in position that can deliver.
I think it's profound that you speak on the fact that you don't let hip hop, or chose not to let hip hop raise your children. I think many people forget that we as entertainers and providers of this music also have families at home and children. And a lot of times, I know personally myself as an artist, I've had fingers pointed at me and say, well, you know, your music is corrupting my children. And I'm like, well, I don't go out and point fingers at people for what happens in my house. It's my job to protect my children from the world as much as possible. And in certain cases, that may even have to be from myself, because a lot of the music that I made wasn't appropriate for my children, or even today for my grandchildren to take in.
Right.
I also see that because of that, sometimes children even want to be a part of it, even more so once they get older. Obviously, not being able to listen to hip hop music had to be difficult for, I'm sure, Jazz and them, because of the fact that that's the family business.
Right.
When do you decide that it's okay to let your children become a part of the family business, which just happens to be hip hop, which you've protected them from for so long?
Well, even in the midst of me protecting them, it found a way to get in. You know what I mean? So they had opportunity to hear it, even with me protecting them from it. But as far as from a business perspective, you know, there's so many ways to teach business practices without allowing them to hear the lyrical content. So, you know, I would have them around, you know, rap a lot and business practices 7, 8 years old. You know what I mean? So I didn't want them to grow up being scared of work.
Right.
You know, I just wanted to have structure in the midst of it.
Well, eventually, of course, the apple tends to not fall far from the tree, and you find your son in the same position that you were in at a very young age, wanting to be in the business, having talent, artists that he believes in. Can you tell us about mentoring your son from finding the Drake situation? For many that don't know, James Prince's son, is responsible for actually finding Drake. There he is. You know, feel free to, you know, ready to stand up.
Yeah. There's Jazz. Yeah, so Jazz discovered Drake. And let me go to the root of how this took place. Jazz was on tour.
Let me get comfortable right now.
Yeah, this is kind of long. But Jazz was on tour with Lil Wayne, you know, and Jazz was having a ball on tour with Lil Wayne. So I called Jazz one day. I said, Jazz, I don't want you just out there touring and partying and having too much of a ball and not coming home with no money. I say, why don't you go to Lil Wayne and tell Lil Wayne that you want to start your record label and you want him to be your partner, and that you have $1 million or so to put up for your company. So Jazz went to Wayne and told him, you know, this is what I want to do. And he called me back, excited. Daddy, Wayne say he down. He down. I said, well, cool. Have Wayne get with me, and let's put a business structure together, and bam. So that's how that came about. Now, I say, Jazz, who is your first artist? He told me about this kid, Drake. And I wanted to hear Drake. So he played Drake for me, and Drake was singing. You know what I mean? I was used to that rough edge. So I said to Jazz, I say, Jazz, you like this? Because I wasn't feeling it. You know what I mean?
But at the time, this is probably the polar opposite of everything musically that Rap-A-Lot's direction had been going in.
Right. I wasn't really feeling it, and I tell Drake to his face, you know, I wasn't feeling it. But Jazz say, Daddy, this is the new sound. He like, this is the new movement. Trust me on this one. I say, well, where is he from? He say he's from Canada. I say, Canada? He said, Canada. He said, he dope. I mean, just overwhelmed, excited about Drake, right? So he said a key word to me. He said, he's buzzing in Canada. And I know I had taught him about buzzes from here and the importance of a buzz. So when he said buzz, my ears stuck up like a German Shepherd, right? I'm like, whoa, buzz? I said, okay. So I got on the phone and made a few calls to Canada. They confirmed that Drake really was buzzing. And from there, you know, Jazz arranged for Drake to come in, and I wasn't the only one who didn't like Drake at first. Lil Wayne wasn't feeling him either.
I'm going to tell a story when you finish this one.
Yeah, he wasn't feeling him as well, but Jazz stood on his belief where he was concerned, and that's how that came to fruition.
I remember I'm going to go ahead and tell this story. I had known Jazz for years, Jazz and my son had been friends, and he had my number, you know, access to me, and I was in the studio recording one day, and he was like, Unc, I got an artist. I finally want you to help me. I always tell him, you know, if you need some help with something, reach out to him. I finally got him. I said, okay, send it over. You know, I'm going to knock it out. He sent it off. I was like, it's all right. It's different. I said, well, I'm gonna get to it. And the next day, you got that verse for me? Because he's been around me in the studio and he knows it doesn't take long for me to do a verse. Oh, I got you, nephew, I'm gonna get to you. All right, because we're trying to wrap it up. Call me the next day. You got that verse for me? This is getting peculiar because Jazz had never really called me that much, right? He's never really, and he's getting real anxious. Man, I'm serious, I need this verse. And I'm like, I got you, I promise I got you. So I'm in the studio, I literally had just recorded 5 songs in a row. I'm tired. I'm walking out the door. My phone rang. You got that verse for me?
Yeah.
Nephew, man, look, I'm tired. I don't know. Unc, man, please. He said, I need this. Like, I believe in this dude, man. I need this. I turned around, I went back, and I went in the booth, and I recorded my verse for Uptown.
Beautiful.
And then probably within the next 10 days to 14 days, that mixtape dropped, and then 10 people were talking about him, and then 100 people were talking about him, and then 1,000 people were talking about him. And then we went to see him at Warehouse Live, and that's when I realized, I was like, this kid saw something that nobody else saw. I don't know what it was he saw. Was it just the music, the character? Because there's a lot that comes into what makes Drake Drake.
Right.
But whatever it was, he saw it.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was thinking, calling him nephew. Man, thank you for putting me on that record.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? For a person that many people call for an opportunity, this was a call that I got for an opportunity for me. And it was a good look for me as an artist to be a part of that. And I don't know if I ever thanked you for that, but thank you for that as well.
Right.
Have you guys, now that you're both basically in the same business, right? But he has his own company.
Right.
Have you guys ever been in a position where you were looking at the same artist?
Not really. You know, I'm in a situation right now where I support him. You know, he priority on what he want to do versus, you know, I'm not going to compete, but I'm here to support his movement and his vision, and you know, that's just the way it is.
Is it almost time for a changing of the guards, do you think?
Well, you know,
Are you ready to hand over the keys fully?
Oh man, hey, I've been ready. You know what I mean? I've been ready, and
well, what keeps you here then? If you've been ready to walk away from it, what keeps you here?
Well, I'm alive. I'm alive, and they won't let me go. You know, I have 3 other sons that's in the entertainment industry as well. So, you know, you got Jazz, you got James. Is James here?
James Jr.?
So he ain't make it yet. You got Andre.
He got a block party coming up. He
Andre,
got to get ready for.
You know, Andre just graduated from college, and he's a sport agent. So, and then you got Jay. Is Jay here? So Jay hadn't made it yet, and Jay been in Austin.
He's here.
Where is he? Oh, Jay, come on up so we can see you. You have Jay, and Jay is really embracing the music industry as well. So, you know, you have like 4 Prince boys, along with a lot of others that they serious about this game. So, you know, this that I have, I can't run off with it and not share it. So I'm here.
And you talk about Andre moving into sports agency. You've been involved with the sports industry for a while. How did the music industry for you make its way into the sports industry?
Well, actually, my first love was boxing. You know, I got distracted with the music game. Turned out to be a good distraction. I got distracted, but eventually I found my way back home. You know, I love boxing, I love the fight game, and you know, I diversified my portfolio. I remember when I done it. I actually done it when I was under attack. You know, I was under attack by the feds and different people, and they thought I was one-dimensional. I was under attack because, and I have to talk about that because, and I'm gonna talk about it not from a victim point of view, but as a testimony.
There you go.
Because once again, no weapon formed against me shall prosper. But yeah, these guys put a full-blown attack on the movement of, our hip-hop movement because they didn't understand it. You know what I mean? We was getting paid and making so much money, group of brothers that had gave up the game and came, over in the music industry, was getting paid and making so much money until they felt like something was crooked about our money. And therefore, it caused a lot of heat, a lot of problems. And at that time, I diversified. I said, you know what? I'm not one-dimensional. If they're gonna be watching and trying to affect this here, then I made a move where I popped up on their TV on HBO. They looked up and turned their TV on, and I was right there in the ring with Floyd Mayweather. So they're like, damn, how he pulled this one off? So, those are some of the obstacles and challenges of life where, one have to adjust. And, we were able to do that, and, the rest is history.
So where do you see the Prince Empire going from now? Now that you've conquered music, you've conquered sports, what's next for the Prince Empire?
Well, it's up to them. That pressure's not on me. I've laid a pretty good foundation, I think, and the sky's the limit. So I'm gonna sit back and watch the fruit of my labor and see how they handle it.
When you look back on your legacy as an entrepreneur, as a humanitarian, as a father, as the godfather of Southern hip hop, is it easy to take in? I got a lot of people that like to call me Unc and OG. Every now and then somebody try to throw old school or school in there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But the terms of endearment, and I know you hear these terms all day, and you look back on your life as a man and reflect. How does it feel?
Oh man, I feel blessed. I don't feel lucky. I feel blessed because, I know why I'm in this position, and I prayed to be in this position. So, everything that I accomplished in my life, I prayed before even chasing it. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's no surprise, when you praying for things for years and days or whatever before it happened, then you don't have to question why it happened and who's responsible for it happening. So, I feel blessed, I feel humble, and I'm thankful. I'm thankful for all of my friends, all my brothers and sisters that contributed, that helped me, to be in the position I'm in, because I didn't do it by myself. Matter of fact, those that helped and contributed, would you please stand and let me acknowledge all of you, because, yeah.
I see them, I read, yeah. I see them all.
See, the fact of the matter is, I couldn't have done this by myself, and I just like for them to know I respect and love all of them that, helped me along my journey. I didn't see you stand, Ken Schaefer. That's my attorney, Ken Schaefer. Yeah. He helped and contributed in a major way because
several times.
Yeah,
I've been in the room with Ken before.
Yeah. Yeah, he's one of the best attorneys here in Texas, if not the best.
Absolutely.
So it's beautiful to have. They say a wise man have many counselors, and he's definitely one that had my back when it was needed.
Well, I have been in your company. I've worked with you. And I could definitely say that you keep some of the best people in the music industry around you. It's been my pleasure to work with them as well as work with you as a solo artist, humanitarian efforts, mentorship, and just as a friend and a person that I've been able to call for professional reasons, for personal reasons, whatever, and you've never turned down a call and you've never not taken the time. I'm with him all the time, and he's always busy, he's always doing things, and if you, every now and then he'll dip off, he'll put that little earpiece in his ear, he'll dip off to the side for a second, and you can tell he's holding somebody down. You know, I try not to ear hustle or whatever, but every now you can hear him say, well, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. Look here, call State now, call Cash, call, you know, and you see it, you know, no matter what he's doing, you know, he's never been big enough, you know, to where he couldn't come back and reach back to people. And I myself am a walking testimony to that. When my record company didn't believe in me as a solo artist, he did. To where my record company had to come back and apologize to me. So on behalf of myself, my brother, and Southern hip hop in general, thank you, James Prince.
Appreciate that. It mean a lot coming from Bun B. A lot of artists I work with, I didn't like. You know what I mean? It was just business with me. I really didn't like him. But he is one that, you know, I love this man right here. So, you know, it mean a lot coming from him because he's rare.
And that's
yeah.
I'm gonna take that one with me. We would love to open the floor up to people. We have a microphone set in the middle of the room. If anybody in here would like to ask Mr. Prince a question, he'd be more than happy to answer. He's not a shy man and he's not scary by any means. So come on with it. This is a one-time opportunity to talk with one of the pillars of hip hop. If there are 4 pillars in hip hop, then there would be 4 corners of hip hop. North, South, East, and West, and this is your Southern pillar. Make sure you state your name, where you're from, and what your question is.
Good morning, legends. Can we all give him a huge round of applause? Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. Bun, I spoke to you last night before my show at the restaurant. Thank you for the encouragement. I did fuck him up, like you said.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
That's what you're supposed to do.
Yes, sir. But to both of you, honestly, I'm here from Sarasota, Florida. I flew in Wednesday, and I just wanted to ask, is there any mentorship opportunities available for a young artist, producer, and someone who wants to make an impact in this industry amongst you guys or your team? I can be anywhere at any time. I just want to ask.
For me personally, I don't have a system set up for mentorship. I wish I could mentor every young artist I meet. I try to do as much as I can. You know, I was with a group of people when I talked to you last night, but I could see in your eyes, you know, that you just really wanted some encouraging words and just wanted to impress upon me that you're an artist and you love what you do, and that maybe in some form or fashion, I impress that upon you. So I just try to, mentorship isn't always about long drawn-out conversations or continued things. It's just about people speaking into your life in the moment.
Yes, sir.
And so in that level, I try to do that as much as possible. I'm not in a position where I can have like organized mentorship for artists that I would like to do, but I do think that is something that's missing in hip hop, the reach back. And if I can't say this about mentorship isn't always old reaching down to young. You'd be very surprised who can teach you and who you can learn from. I spoke about Jazz giving me a call and putting me in a particular place. So mentorship isn't always about the old informing the young. It's about those with knowledge giving it to those that don't. So if anytime I see any artist on the street and I have time, I try to give as much time as I can. Unfortunately, I don't have a mentorship program, which
Yes, sir.
which is my fault, I guess, you know what I'm saying? Because maybe we should be looking into that kind of a thing more for you guys.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Well, I couldn't have said it better. I'm going to give you some mentorship right now.
Yes, sir.
So you're an artist, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You have a good lawyer?
I just met a lawyer here. It's one of the
Okay.
reasons why I came to the conference.
Well, that's important. You want to have a good lawyer, one that respect you, respect your vision, and you want to have amazing work ethic. You know what I mean? You're dealing with a lot of competition, and you're going to have to outperform the competition that you're dealing with. If they work 4 hours, you need to work 8. So, you know, the music game is a game that'll run the week off. It's not designed for the week at heart. So you have to make sure, you know, this is something you want, something you really want to do, because it's going to come sacrifices and challenges to check what I call your nut bag. So, you know,
We've grown
you won't
today,
you won't be able to reach me, you know what I mean, 24/7, but I like to leave you with that.
I appreciate that.
All right, bro.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck to you, young.
Thank you.
How's it going? My name is Bao. I'm a producer, artist, engineer from San Diego. Much respect to y'all. Mr. Prince, what would you say are 3 key things that you would love you can impart with you know, us up-and-comers on how to navigate, you know, through the industry and maybe avoid some of the pitfalls of bullshit managers or, you know, shit like that?
Yeah. Well, number one, you know, I reiterate the lawyer thing is important. And, you know, you don't want, when I say lawyer, you don't want to hire Ken, a professional criminal attorney, to represent you in music. In other words, you don't want to go, you know, you have a heart problem, but you're going to a foot doctor. You know what I mean? So you want one that specializes in what you're trying to do, and that will respect you. You know what I mean? And then another thing I would encourage you to do is to try and align yourself up with those that are successful, if you can. You know what I mean? It's important to try and align yourself up with positive people. And thirdly, one of the things that you don't want to do is pick up a lot of bad habits. You know what I mean? You don't want to alter your mind from being able to accomplish the things that you really want. You know, I witnessed people trying different drugs or different things and never being able to recuperate, you know, from that they tried. So it's important to not pick up those bad habits to throw your focus off.
Thank you very much.
How you doing? How you brothers doing today? My name is Young E. I'm an R&B singer from Oakland, California. But I, by the way,
Oaktown.
Yeah, Oakland.
Family business.
Yeah, let's get it. And I stay in Houston. I've been staying in Houston for about 3 or 4 years now. And that key word you said, Jay, buzz.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to work on getting the buzz in Houston. You know, I got websites, you know, SoundCloud, every, you know, thing that you would need. I'm just trying to get a buzz. So what you prefer, do I need to do it the street way? Get out there, CDs, you know what I mean, hitting the clubs up, because I've done showcases, you know, but I'm just trying to get out here and really get it.
Yeah, well, once again, you know, my advice is you're going to have to work relentlessly, whether it's in the street, social media, it's all kinds of tools, new tools that I may not even be familiar with that can help you promote and get out there right now. But, you know, Jay Prince is here, so make sure you introduce yourself and, you know, get the train rolling.
Right. Thank y'all, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. How y'all doing? Hey, Jay Prince. Hey, Bun. I ain't gonna lie. I'm a little nervous.
That's all right, bro.
I'm a little nervous.
Just don't forget to breathe.
Yeah. I go by DJ Low Key. I'm on a volunteer radio station. KZI. It's a homegrown radio station. Been around for 30 years right here in the ATX. So yeah, I guess clap your hands for that one.
Yeah.
So my question is, Bun, how do you feel about Houston the way it is now? Because it seems like everybody wants to have that Houston influence in their songs. I'm noticing from A$AP Rockies to the Bryson Tillers, everybody want to have their stuff screwed and chopped and stuff like that. How do you feel about that now? Everybody's mimicking the Houston style and
Well, I've been around long enough to know that that's kind of how this game works. right? Initially, there was only rap coming from the East Coast. That's where it was created. That's where it was originated from. So the early practitioners of hip hop outside of the East Coast felt they had to sound like New Yorkers, right, with cadence and flows in order to be accepted, right? And this happens until somebody says, fuck that, right? And then West Coast starts to make their own music with their own identity, and then people see that, and they start to emulate that until they say, fuck that. I'm finna do what we do down here in the South. So it's really just up to a point where you decide to, everybody's gonna learn something from somebody, right? Mm-hmm. I would not be the MC that I am if it had not been for the Big Daddy Kanes, the Cool G Raps, right? Those are the people that I took in my early influences from, and eventually I figured out how to carve my own style and identity from that. But if we're not making music that influences people outside of where we're from, then we're doing it wrong.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
All right, thank you.
Morning, Mr. Prince. My name is Ruben Jimenez. I am from Northside Central, Houston, Texas, off of McKee and Lorraine, right over the tracks from 5th Ward, right there by the Specs Liquor.
Tell them, Rue. Tell them.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
One of the first oversized rap promo t-shirts I ever had was a Rap-A-Lot t-shirt way back in 1989. Just letting you know, Tim Smooth.
Oh, man.
He went back, didn't he?
Tim Smooth. Oh, boy.
I'm just
Rest
saying.
in peace. Rest in peace.
So, I wanted to do two things. One, point out and say thank you so much for the overarching reach and opportunity that Rap-A-Lot's kind of given me as a fan of this culture, right? And as a partaker of this culture, too. I mean, I've been everywhere from the West Coast and had Rap-A-Lot mentioned to me by executives and stuff to being on the East Coast and having Bobby Dash, who was the brother of Damon for Rockefeller, right? Just because I was wearing actually a J. Prince. It was when you were doing the fashion thing. It was this heavy pleather jacket with a Rap-A-Lot logo on the back, Rap-A-Lot 2K. Yeah. He's like, well, what you doing with that? Yo, come over here. Gave me a bunch of Rockefeller wear. Anyway, if you could, sir, speak more so, because it's not even 6 degrees separation when it comes to this man's influence with hip-hop. Hip-hop started in the East Coast, but everywhere else I went in this game, someone mentioned J. Prince and his influence on their independent label, their movement itself, especially things like Death Row, which a lot of folks, it's kind of a sleeper on. You actually had some hands in that, right? Yeah. Like, if you could just kind of speak to how many people, I mean, I know it's some other stuff, but how much people have actually looked to the South to emulate what you have done.
Yeah.
He's got a certain level of modesty. Right. He's not going to throw it out there, but...
Yeah.
It is what it is, boss.
You know what?
I ain't trying to air it out either. I know it's not Front Street.
I understand. Trust me. You're not putting no pressure on me. Okay, let's start with Death Row, because Death Row, a friend of mine at the time, Micah Harris, was the foundation where Death Row was.
Was that Solar Records?
Well, not Solar. Solar was the building that they done a lot of recording in. Mm. But after Rap-A-Lot took off, he called me. He was in the federal penitentiary. And he asked me, he was like, man, I hear you moving, this is happening. So at that time, I'd said to him, do you know Dr. Dre? I say, Dr. Dre is a genius. Connect with Dr. Dre. And however he done it, whether it was through Suge or however, that came to fruition where they went and got Dr. Dre. So, I didn't put any money or nothing like that in Death Row, but I influenced him to make moves to bring that together. That's my contribution where that's concerned.
That's what's up. Hey, thank you again for everything, seriously. The blueprint.
My clock is saying that we're out of time. Can somebody tell me if we can get a couple more questions, or are we done on that?
I think we have time for two.
Okay, we have time for two more questions. I apologize, folks. I talked too long.
I understand.
That was my bad.
I know we're on a time thing. My name is Lotto, Mob TV, Waco, Texas, but I've lived everywhere, Austin, Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, everywhere I can get in and work.
Right on.
Question for both you brothers. Professor Freeman, I know you have a class that you teach. How can, and I really want to get involved in that, I kind of missed the information. How can people get involved in that another time? Mm-hmm. And my question for Mr. Prince is, I value both of your brothers' opinions very much. What should we be looking at for the presidential election as signs as for where we going and who we choosing?
I'm gonna take
It's
the
real
school.
important. I really want to know. So.
I'm gonna take the school question. For the class is concerned. No, it's very easy to take my course. You simply have to enroll in Rice University and pay tuition. And
Yeah, I had a free one, a hip hop and religion.
but no, I was going to get to
this.
this. So we did offer the class, a free version of the class to the public. We are going to try to reinstitute that free version again in the fall because we know that everybody obviously can't go to Rice University. But what we're talking about on Rice University simply can't be contained on that campus. So we are going to make that available again. So just continue to follow me online, and as soon as that comes up again, hopefully in the fall, I'll be just hitting it out there, letting everybody know when it's available.
Okay.
And you can talk about the presidency.
Well, this is how I feel about politics and hip hop to a certain extent. President Obama, for example, I feel like hip hop played a major role into him becoming president of the United States of America. And I say that because, I feel like hip hop brought races together and penetrated households and different things like no other genre of music. And that was the first time I ever voted. So, I don't know if I'm the right person to be asking who you should vote for this time. But if I had to choose, it wouldn't be the mayor. I'm a Republican, by the way.
Okay,
Yeah.
I think this is our last question.
Republican.
Yeah. I like to tell people I'm lifestyle liberal, but I'm conservative when it comes to my money. I don't tell nobody what to do with their life, and nobody tell me what to do with my money. That's how I like to go. Last question. Lucky you.
Thank you. How you guys doing? Appreciate everything that's going on today. This is my 4th year in South by Southwest. I work with this artist named Paper Park. We got this project out. It's called Power. Man, I know I came here for a reason. I got these keys. It's on here. I'm telling y'all gonna love it. It's great. Pusha T hopped on it just like you did for Drake. I think this is a great situation. If I share it with y'all, well, that'll be enough for me. Can I?
Yeah. Well, hey, man, you can share it with me.
All right, cool. I just want to share it with whoever.
You say you got 2 of them?
I got enough for whoever needs one. Like, on top.
Yeah.
I'm telling y'all, I'm from Cleveland. His name Paper Park. Push hopped on the record. It's called Deposit. It's been picking up Midwest, East Coast. They turning me off, but I'm never not working.
Give it to the youngsters in the front row.
Can we have that last gentleman right there? We the last
back on?
one.
He look, yeah. I'm gonna say he looked loud enough to talk without the mic.
How y'all doing?
You see what I'm saying?
Check it out. My name is Michael Watts from
Watts.
the Swisher House. How y'all doing?
Michael Watts.
This right here is for Jay. It's not a question, man. I just wanted to tell you, a lot of people didn't know that Jay Prince was responsible for us being a part of the Warner Brothers music group. We had ended up selling platinum records. I want to thank you personally and publicly, man, for doing that and believing in us in a time that a lot of people were scared of dealing with us, man. So I appreciate it a lot, man, and for everything, man.
I appreciate you, Watts.
Thanks.
Appreciate you, brother. Oh, one more. We got to let the franchise.
That's a special.
That's Steve Francis.
That's a special guest.
Yeah, and then we done.
Yeah, my boy Steve. But Jay, what's up, Brian? Last week I was able to spend. Well, last week I was able to spend some time with you, and I think the best thing about it was 3 hours that we ain't talking about shit.
Yeah.
I was just able to hear, the wilderness. You answered right now every question I wanted to ask you.
Wow.
How the hell do you go to a meeting when you got the same amount of capital and everybody expect you to put more money up?
Oh, man. Well, let me say this to you. Don't put it up. Don't put it up. You attend that meeting and go to that meeting with a game plan. You know what I mean? And your game plan should be structured from A to Z. And you don't want to, the only reason you're going to them is because you're not them. So don't try and, you know, compete in that area. I tell everybody, you know, from an independent perspective, you know, there's a certain risk tolerance that go along with that. And, you know, everybody don't have the stamina or the risk tolerance to, you know, want to take risks in all those different areas. And my advice is not to do it without the proper game plan, because the music industry is, I call it a black hole that you can dump $1 billion in. It don't matter how much money you have. You can dump $1 billion in there, and if it's spent wrong, incorrectly, then it's just gone. You know what I mean? So it's important to not get caught up in what you have, and it's important to not even get caught up emotionally with your emotions and feelings where this game is concerned, because, you know, it's business.
I was talking about real estate, but yeah, I understand with music too. I understand what she said. I was talking about
equal risk,
real estate.
equal reward. That's all that is. That's a simple way, man. Equal risk, equal reward. Everybody, I want to thank you all for attending. I want to thank people in the crowd for the questions. Please give it up one more time for our keynote speaker today. From Rap-A-Lot Records, Mr. James Prince.
Thank you.